all, you're out of that. You want to take a break route for a section. Okay, this is your adapter for that.
Danger of being shocked by the control voltage, it's damaging the controls.
Dropping the breaker out.
Yeah. So another thing to look at is, see these here? Sometimes when you go to connect this cradle, some of these, they don't line up right, they push back. And you need to use a real thin pair of needle nose to pull it back out. It's just a troubleshooting. Sometimes when you run into errors, back breaker and you're trying to get it going and it's not closing, like doing something, sometimes these get pushed back just enough where it doesn't make contact. So just be aware of that, because these can actually be pulled right out. So sometimes these get pushed in, so just remember that in the future if I'm never here and you have issues. That could be a troubleshooting that you don't see in time. Sometimes it comes from the manufacturer and it might be sitting back. One pin might be sitting back, and it could be the right pin at the right time, right? Under voltage or something.
Chuck, you want to do the 480 volt breaker?
Here's your last measurement for that. Did you put it in the panel? Use your high voltage. Once you start racking in, I don't know if this one does it, I can't remember if it starts hissing as you start to go in, but you want to keep going. Once it starts picking up, yeah. You don't want to.
Don't soft and
Stop
mid.
it.
When you go in, go in.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna keep our locks off of that now, so.
Yeah,
Ben Cow or somebody else, if you guys wanna put one on, so they don't have to cut it off, because we won't be here when it comes time for it. I don't even know if they're still doing bus duck. Do you know if they're still planning on doing bus duck, Mike?
I actually did.
Okay, now, these little guys, the same deal. This is the lifting device over here. It's a little hydraulic jump. Now these are your various adapters.
But Chuck, this one doesn't, yeah, it's got the arms already in it.
What you pick up?
And it was two different sizes if I remember right, Chuck, wasn't it?
Yeah. One side, you play with, we're lifting them out.
Cherry picker.
You can go cherry pick and lift it right off the deal.
Just gotta make sure when it comes up around the weight of it. Make sure your fingers can stay in, right? Yeah.
And I think there was an arrow on this thing, is which way you want to do it.
Yeah. I think you had it.
Right to the front, see, was that backwards?
There's like little.
It depends on what position here.
Double tap goes inside the sock.
So, this one here, I never ever found a ratchet for it. So you just use the regular 3/8.
Yeah, that's what me and Vinny were popping all these in and out.
3/8 extension.
I mean, I would probably just do like a speed wrench or something.
I just put my extension on the end of it.
Yeah, as I said, I'd probably do like a speed wrench or something if I was gonna do it. I mean, that, like the guy said on that movie thing, a lot of guys, if I got a shitload of these things, then I'll hook them onto a cordless drill or something like that. It's just so you don't want to keep ramming them home with it. Maybe set it on a clutch or something like that. Where you can do it.
Correct, whatever.
Let's show the back, pull it back in, 'cause we might not pull it back out. If you look on the back, these are the stabs, guys. Take a look so you know what the back looks like. And you look inside the cell.
And always make sure your breaker's open when you go to rack them in. Usually there's a safety device that will automatically trip it off, but you don't want to.
Open, uncharged.
Yeah. And this is a cranking mechanism. You don't have power to charge it. Yeah, this is a. Okay, now it's charged. So, now it's low, you know what I mean? You just want to make sure it's open before you rack it in.
Do we have to wear the arc flash suit and all that when we do this, or?
You should have face protection and gloves when you're racking it out of it.
Yeah, like long.
Great, I think it's happening.
Yeah, I think it's really easy.
For those of you at the training, remember the breaker goes into on 3 different stops. One's all the way out, one's halfway in, one's all the way in. The halfway in is the test position, yellow. That's what this lever shows. And this lever, the breaker goes halfway in, it activates this. It allows you to test the breaker, play with the digitrip and everything, set it without having it racked all the way in. That's what this lever is right here. Stripe right there. It says test. You got control lighting. So now if you wanted, you can play with this, set your instantaneous trips, curves, the whole 9 yards.
So this is gonna be eventually for the
Right.
79.
Right. Right.
The last I heard, boy was laying it all out. Must have.
The high voltage feed and then there's the.
Yeah. This is one I was telling you about, but you gotta be aware when they go to do it. See how you put on here? This is clockwise. These two here are clockwise. This is counterclockwise. That's what it is over here. The incoming is counterclockwise. So it's really clockwise over to MDPB. You have to line up on the other side. This lineup over here is still counterclockwise, just like you got.
Also, one line we'll get after checking this. You can rack it all later and leave it out.
Alright, so first you want to make sure it's open. Breaker's open, right? The green indicator. Yep, see open. Watch these indicators. Oh yeah.
Okay, here's the test.
It'll let you know.
I mean, it starts turning red,
Yeah.
but it should be full red.
Yep, there you go. Alright, now if it didn't do this, the charging cable, which we'll show you.
The ultralight, yeah.
Yeah. So now if you want to close it on the bus, you want to close it or do you want some gear?
Fine. You can do it.
Of course, I'm standing over here. Now it's closed. Now show the proper way to open it if you want to open it. You want to use this or you want to use this? Careful, you can see this, see the arrow? See this, see the arrow? This is simple. On some bigger units, you have two right here. One goes down, one goes up. You can open or close the wrong one.
Okay.
Alright?
Same thing, you don't want to draw it out. It should.
Can't draw it out when it's charged.
Well, it'll charge automatically. You want it open.
And want to drop the charge,
I
right?
don't think you can draw it. I don't think close the track. I don't think it'll like it.
What they're saying, I think it'll trip it. I like it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it. It's
You're older.
what else do you guys need to know? Lots of your stuff in here. Okay, so you're gonna break on
See all that copper?
So, like I said, this is clockwise here. So when you guys go to do the 79 building, when they do the busing into here, you guys are gonna have to swap one of the phases if you want to tie in counterclockwise over on your side.
See all the arc shield or anything?
Just like this.
No. Yeah, I'm not happy with that. Let me see. guys be careful, don't go in there.
Yeah, they should almost swap one of these out, so one of them, like on the circuit breaker, got a key at it. There's no place to lock this one off.
Yeah, it's a little.
Throw a monkey
So
wrench
is
in.
that block on the right, the block for the breaker, the one that's empty?
Yeah, this one.
So it's the upper three?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Well, technically, Chuck, nobody should be in a timber,
Well,
should be like, should know what they're doing. No different than just taking.
I don't know if they can order one. Maybe Nick can order one.
You might want to find out, and I'll show you on the one lines, what this feeds. Because you want to go check that stuff. You don't want to just keep closing it, it trips. Close it again, it trips. Close it, 20 minutes later, it trips. Something's wrong somewhere, and all you're doing is making it more of an issue. Start a fire, burn something up.
So it doesn't have a trip indicator, it's just gonna say open or closed?
Correct. You'll see here if it's instantaneous ground fault or something like that. We'll go over all that another time.
Okay.
Now I'll tell you basically the severity of why it tripped. It could be anything. You can only do what you can do. You can't check every single exit light, every single emergency light. You just can't. But you can go through some of the main distribution panels.
Right.
Sometimes this might have tripped, but a distribution panel down the line also tripped. And you find that, then you can isolate that and power the rest.
Now, the hardest thing is trying to locate a skip though. We had a problem in our last building where we would kill the building, every time we used a chop saw, it'd skip our panel completely and kill the main breaker in the building.
We're having that problem issue here too. And what it is you have fixed, your smaller breakers are fixed. There's a fixed amount. That's in case that's what it is. But as it gets to 100 amps and bigger, it's like they start cranking those down and getting those to where they're nice and tight and stuff like that. And what you do is you'll, mostly like on a ground fault, you'll jump past it and go right to like a main breaker or even to a disconnect breaker.
A lot of it might be electrical engineer needs to readdress the
When they
settings.
do the surveys and stuff like that, stuff like this, we're kind of having that issue with this one. So like, we've got the generators kick on it, and then flip back over and stuff like that. We've had some distribution breakers drop or something like that because, and there's no load. We really don't have any load yet. I mean, it's transfer. We have to transfer. Right. So it's little things like that. Yeah. How what feeds what is really where what we kind of explains better what we mean. So basically. For high voltage gears, where Chuck's at. Okay? And then this here, the transformer, is this big guy here. So, high voltage gear coming off that breaker there feeds this transformer here. Which is this guy. And then that comes over to MSA.
Runs right in here. Right on top of here. Under your feet.
Right under here, we got a little trench duct with some feeders in there. And that feeds MSA. This is all the normal power. Your normal PGD, 12 kV comes in, hits that, transformer 480 volt to here, and this is broken in half. Half of it goes to MSA, NDPA, and half of it goes to NDPB, which is on the other side. So you kind of see, as we did this, you got NDPA, NDPB.
Is this in the other room or?
NDPB is in the other room. NDPA is right there. Okay.
Now, guess what NDP stands for?
Main distribution panel. There's an A and a B. The B basically just does, all the B does is the normal side of all the transfer switches. The A does all the normal power in the building. That kind of makes sense? We'll kind of get into it a little bit more, but basically, A is feeding all your end panels in the building. NDPB is feeding the normal side of all your ATSs, the 4 ATSs.
So everything off the A does not have emergency backup.
Exactly.
It's just normal source, that's it. Those are the ones that go dead in a power outage. B side has emergency backups.
So if you flip to the next page, that is basically NDPA, which is that guy over there. Okay?
So this building doesn't get emergency coverage?
So off of this one, you're going to have, you got 4 distribution panels being fed off this guy here. 4, you got a transformer that feeds a low voltage panel up back. So coming off here, you got your roof. You got a roof panel.
Now, low voltage 120 or 208?
120, 208. Yes. When I say low voltage, everything now. When I say high voltage, it's going to be 480. Yeah, it's only 12 kV. You got back here. That's all the Indians right in the transformer. So you're going to have some low voltage 120, 208 fed off of this, but it's going to be run for transformers, obviously. And then you got all your normal lighting coming off of here too, which basically runs this right through here. Now I won't get really into any farther going up and stuff like that, as far as, but basically this feeds those two distribution panels there, which is in the nomenclature we got here. You got to remember too that things got changed. Originally everything was B down here. You know, this is the basement, it was B, then they made it B2. So there's going to be some things you're going to run into this at B2, B. We're trying to get that kind of worked out until everything should be B2 now. But you got your high voltage and your low voltage there, and then you're going to have one on the 3rd floor, and then you got one on the roof. But this is all normal. No generator backup like Dave was saying. Okay?
That's the high voltage on the right.
So how it works, guys, I'm sure you guys probably know that how it works. That's your level. What floor you're on the building. That's what it is as far as normal, critical, equipment, or life safety. So it's either going to have an N, a C, an E, or an L. N is all the stuff coming off that. It's all not like no generator backup. Then you got either high or low voltage. Low 122.8, high 480, 275, and then distribution. Okay. So that would be the normal riser going up and stuff like that. Probably less concern. Now MDPB on the other side, let's go in the other row. So you guys got it basically that feeds this, which is broken in half goes here, and half goes here.
Real quick, guys, one more thing before we leave. Mike, look at the difference. What do you see here? Right? Look at these. Close the charge. Is there a difference? Does it matter? Does it mean there's a problem? So if you came in, you're doing your rounds and you saw that one was white, that's yellow. Would you go, oh shit, we're gonna charge that?
You don't need to charge it, so you're going to change the switch, right?
Just making sure. Some people, you gotta know what you're looking at and what it means. Yep.
So it's okay to be discharged, it's just you can't change the power.
All you really care about is close or open.
Right, you say that.
While it's in service. Some guys, they're not up to date on electrical, and they see it, they're like, oh shit. Right? Cool, thank you, sir.
This is NDPV. Just like MDPA, except for coming off of MSA, as it comes in here, it's just got the 4 breakers. And those 4 breakers, all they feed is the 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th ATS is in the little electrical room over there. Okay? So all this feeds is the normal side of the ATSs. For the critical, there's 2 equipment. We have 2 equipments. I think it's 3 and 4 of the equipments.
Yeah, one's life safety.
The little guy's life safety.
Okay, so 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are
Yeah,
life
you got it right
safety.
here. So this is, ATS 3 is Beats A, which is equipment A. And then you got equipment B. And then you got life safety. And then the critical is the one that's in the other.
So remember that, critical, life safety, and then 2 equipments.
Right.
And then a fire pump, but that's not.
Yeah. So basically, normal power comes in here, goes to the ATSs, and then you got your risers coming off of that.
Fire pumps aren't going separate. So
Yeah, I was going to go into that if we kind of cover all this. So, you got your Beats A, Beats B, which is your 2 equipment risers and stuff like that. Your Beats B, basically ATS 4, it feeds elevators. And basically, all it does from here, it goes up to the roof distribution panel. Okay? Feeds A, it does all of your other equipment panels, and it does like the air handler panel.
In there, MRI and all that stuff on that one? Scanner,
No.
Is that on critical? Yeah, CCT.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, some of them are on, some of them are on normal. The critical ATS2, which is in the equipment room and stuff like that, you're going to get that. You're going to see a lot more C out on the floors and stuff like that, because that's basically your emergency power to all patient rooms and things like that. 90% of that's going to be stuff that's going to be coming off the critical riser. You know, the equipment riser is more or less the bigger stuff. You might have some smaller stuff being cut on it, but for more or less it's the critical that does that. And then life safety would be fire alarm, doors, things like that, stuff that, you know, and it's a small ATS too. But basically you got 4 risers. Actually 5 if you break the equipment in half, you know, because you got ATS A and ATS-B. You got your normal, you got your critical, you got your two equipments, and your life safety. Okay. Where else am I going to go? Okay, then you also have coming in here, the other side over here, coming in here, you have 480 coming in, right, Chuck? 480 coming in, right? There's a transformer outside, a PG&E transformer outside, that feeds the fire pump. And that's a separate entity there. Okay? And that gear basically is just this gear here, right to here. And all it does, it comes in, and it feeds the other
transfer switch on the other side.
Right, it's the other side of the fire pump. It's not the normal side of the fire pump. The normal side of the fire pump is coming from this side of the gear.
Okay.
Right? Am I doing that
This
right?
is the normal side.
That's the normal side, then the emergency is coming off the generator.
Yeah, well, the emergency comes off the generator and it goes into the transfer switch
Right,
on the
exactly.
other side.
So that would be the
if this
normal.
fails-
The normal coming in the fire pump, right? The fire pump's got to be on its own entity coming in. So that's the normal side for the fire pump, and then the emergency of the fire pump will come off our emergency gear. And that's the emergency gear there. Basically, what it is the two generators on roof feed parallel gear, which feeds ESP. And then the breakers in there come over to the emergency side of all the ATSs. That kind of makes sense? So you got the normal side, feed the ATSs, the emergency side of the ATSs, the generators feed that gear there.
So then from here it's transferring over. So
Right,
This is like
okay.
the main. This is like the main from the generator coming down
Exactly.
here then.
Exactly.
Okay. And that's a separate service from the
separate
street
service
as
just for the
opposed.
fire smoke for the fire pump. It feeds just the fire pump, but then also at the same time you've got emergency coming off the fire pump too, in case for some reason that goes down.
Right.
But it's got to be a separate feed coming in from, I guess, as far as I know, as far as code and stuff like that.
Okay.
And,
So does
I don't know, it's PG&E, I think they keep that circuit, this feeder, like, they don't overload that.
Yeah.
That's one of their special, the normal feed from PG&E.
Now, even the emergency are here. It's not dialed in 100% yet. This particular breaker here, it's going up top to the new tap can that we just stuck in. We still have to pull that. So this is going to be like a third generator setup. You know, if something fails on these, or if you got to work on them or whatever, then you'll bring in like before your remote generator, hook it up there to the tap can. Now this one still has to be dialed in. It shows on the drawings a couple of Kirk clocks because you don't want to marry the two different sources. There's one here. It got taken off on shipping. It's in the gang box, so I got to put it back on. But it shows the second one on this switch here.
the main coming from the generator.
So we're gonna have to open this up, you know, the same thing with the Kirk locks and stuff, so that you can't marry the two sources or whatever. But it was supposed to come with it, I don't know how, I've never seen it on there, so I don't know if they got a special bracket or, so I gotta find out, you know, we gotta find out about that second Kirk lock that interlocks these two, but that's what this setup is.
So, quick review, the fire pump is fed directly from PG&E from its normal power. If PG&E drops, because the dry rate of a power pole, when it drops, emergency generators will power the fire pump. And if that fails, the tertiary source will be this temporary remote generator that we'd have to call in and have it hooked up. And that'll be off that top breaker.
Where's that cannon located?
That's on the alley.
Oh.
James
That's
asked.
back under.
So is there two different feeds from PG&E coming in?
Yeah, this
So-
one here is a 480 volt feed, because there is a little transformer out there, so like that just feeds the fire supply. See, that's this guy right here.
You open that, close that.
Exactly. That's what the Kirk walk
And
is.
here's your transfer switch for your fire pump and stuff like that.
You have to take the key and open that one.
You said you don't want
Okay?
two different.
Exactly.
You explained on the double throw switch. I assume that's a double throw, right?
Yeah, it is.
Pringle.
Because you have to crank it before you can close it.
So remember how the breakers you charge, close? Well, that's kind of the same. You have to go boom, boom. So you just go boom and go, shit, what happened? It's not working. And then you go back. Now you actually closed it.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna.
Then you just
set up
watch the
Kirk walk.
indicator. You just watch the indicator, it's red when it's open, green when it's closed, red when it's closed, green when it's open.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the same principle. You just gotta wind it.
I just see the red underneath that, so that's the
Yeah,
indicator.
yeah.
And that's your trip switch right there. You
Yes.
hit that red button,
That's true.
Okay.
and that will dump it.
Okay.
And then you have to charge it again in order to
Watch
close
this
it.
one here. Close the service, did the same thing. One click, he sat there, looked at it, went, uh-oh, something on the bus stop. And he actually, that's when he closed it and it blew up.
Does so the fire pump has its own transfer switch then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that in here?
No, we'll go next.
Room.
Oh.
Fire pump.
Anything else in here?
No? So you guys got it? So all these switches have two sources of power. Emergency, normal. Or you could call it source one, source two, primary, secondary. There's different names. It sits on its primary side, it's always looking for power, looking. If it sees a blip, and that's determined by an electrical engineer how big that little blip is, milliseconds. As soon as it sees that blip, it's going to fire up the generators, and it's going to roll the switch over. And I don't know if
Any one of these sources will dump it.
I don't know, were these set to stay rolled until we roll them back, or they're on 30 minutes? I don't know, dude.
Well, only because we had it happen. Like I said, when it originally switches over, you're gonna get, what's it?
10 seconds?
No, it's maybe not a minute, but it's close to a minute because it takes time for the generators to fire up. If you've lost power, it takes time for the generators to fire up, get up to, not a long time, but to get them ramped up, and then for it to switch, because it's got to sense all that before it'll even switch.
Critical's gotta
But
be
to go
maintained.
the other way, once the normal power comes back on, it's got to maintain. It's got to be on for 5 minutes, and then it starts. The ATS will start sending. And we can go over this when we get the ATS guy out here. But after the first 5 minutes of the countdown, it had normal power for 5 minutes. Then it starts trying to sink. It'll sink. And that lasts you like 15 seconds, so boom, and then it'll drop. And that's pretty instantaneous when it drops back. It's just like the lights flicker.
We
and
might
back
want
on.
it to stay on e-power, and we'll put it back. We'll discuss that, because if PG&E's having issues, I don't want them bouncing.
Yeah.
So once we're on e-power, we're on e-power. Might as well stay and check everything out, look at everything and make sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something.
And then we'll roll back, so we'll look at that.
And there's also been all kinds of settings, I'm sure, too, that
That's
you wanted
adjustable.
you wanted to make sure, hey, it's got to be on there for 30 minutes or something. You know, I'm sure you can do all kinds of things. You can
Yeah,
talk-
then our monthlies will be for 31 minutes.
Exactly. Okay, so the next, so anyway, this is kind of, we call this the emergency switch room.
Life
So, like-
safety, this is a life safety electrification.
All these buttons and knobs mean something, guys. Don't bang into them.
Oh, that's the other thing. Tell you guys, well, we talked about fitting the,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll go over that when
Any
we
of
do
these
BTS
handles,
training.
you know what I mean? Doesn't take very much. See, it picks up quick, and then it won't transfer. You just move these handles. a
So if
little
that's
bit.
sitting like that, you walk in and you see this, if we had a power outage, they wouldn't roll over.
This one wouldn't transfer.
So it's
So that's why I was
okay.
telling him to take the little baby tie wraps, just to put it on there, just so somebody can't bump it inadvertently.
Yep. But that's bad.
You know, and even these on all your lamp tests, so that they don't burn out or whatever. You know, you can do your lamp test. You know, and check all your lamps and stuff. And then a couple of them, the connected ones, will stay on for like 10 seconds. So you can tell that your ATS is locked in, ready to go or whatever. So that'll give you a little tiny bit and then it'll time off. But if you need to check lamps to find out what the situation is,
You're not gonna put a little face right there, a little picture of Chuck's on? Really, man?
I still gotta move my toy.
So, same thing, I mean, kind of looks the same, different brand, but it's just a transfer switch. And we ran this one off the generator too. We had to have it run for a while to get off the generator.
That's good.
Yeah.
This is one of them that I had to swap phases on, from the generator, because the generators clockwise. So I had to change it to counterclockwise.
I don't know, what else? Kind of, like I said, I didn't want to get too into detail on that or anything like that. But, can give you guys a little recap. Yeah, there's a little jockey pump. You know, some of this stuff too, we'll recover a little bit with the fire alarm stuff too, because I'm monitoring points in here on the fire alarm, as far as, you know, phase reversal, trouble, when the fire pump kicks on, things like that.
I highly suggest you guys to come in, read how to manually, just go through the verbiage and read how it says. So when we do transfer switch, I said I had to. Transfer switch training, it'll make sense a little more. But it is nice, try to figure on your own, because basically it's going to say either push in or pull out, rotate the handle. So read it and try to get a comprehension in your head. So then when we go over transfer, we go, oh, I got it. And trust me, it'll make a lot more sense. It'll help you understand it a lot more.
We didn't provide this one, the fire pump.
Yeah, this was a
sprinkler
really
guy did.
easy.
So it's a little, you know, it's different. I'm sure if we would have provided, we'd probably got the same guy plan for the all the same. But, you know, it's the same setup, I guess. Anything else, Chuck?
Is it? So you guys know how to get in while it's still turned on.
Do you want to show them?
You know, depends, everyone's different.
Remember, when you guys do this, if you
These will
choose
have-
to do this, know what you're doing to do this, because if you trip that when you're closing it back up,
It won't trip.
things are gonna happen.
I need a bigger screwdriver. It's got a little lever. That almost any kind of disconnect switch and stuff like that will have a little bit. Most electricians know that there's a little, sometimes it's a lever you gotta do. This has like a little screw head on there, and then you just squeeze it, so you can get in without tripping it.
All the VFDs have got a little point where you can have them in the on position and push them. You know.
I tried to mark each one of them, where it was going when I was doing them. You know, there's the fire pump motor over there. Whether it's counterclockwise, but like I say, the generators up top are clockwise generator feed. So it's PG&E from the street, they're bringing in counterclockwise on your building, everything. So because the generators are clockwise, one of them had to change because they both have to be in sync. You know, it's for rotation purposes for the pump.
Yeah, so if you go up to the generator panel, right, emergency panel, you see the breaker for the fire pump. The color code might be brown, orange, yellow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you come down here, it's not going to be BO off because you had to reverse it.
This is the only setup that I had to reverse one so far. Because usually all our motors and stuff that are on the life safety stuff, that's why everything on the life safety came across as counterclockwise. So the generator, nothing got swapped around, the generator is feeding.
So did we swap it on the load side of the main breakers, or we do it at the distribution panels? Where
You could do it either way.
Do you guys remember where you swapped them at? Coming out of the magnums or into the distributions? Do you remember?
We didn't swap anything up there. Everything is right here in the main switchboard right there, where we swapped it. And this one, I can't remember where the hell I did it. I think it might have been in this one over here, where I swapped the loader.
Any questions, guys? Anything?
How good can you go with the batteries with?
Pardon me?
Batteries and electrical bulb. batteries.
Oh, for the control voltage for the.
Can you show them what
for the
that
high
does
voltage.
and why?
Control voltage for the. Can you ask?
Some of these just have a little dot. You just push a little dot with like a.
That does the control voltage for the 12 kV here. So you can rack things in, rack things out. You wouldn't need the power to do it.
Is it just backup, or is it actually the batteries make it
It
work?
probably runs through it. I mean, we're powering them up, but I'm sure just running on it. It's like a UPS. It probably just runs through the batteries.
I think it's backup. I think this is generating its own
And running through
resource.
like you can.
Those batteries need to maintain the feet.
Yeah, we have to do testing on it. Every 2 years or 3 years we have to replace them. Yeah, it's
I think
expensive.
there's an umbilical cord around here for testing like these breakers if you want to take it out.
Back here.
Where you can hook it up, just like these hook up on that here. Yeah, it's the same thing as like a stick.
I think it's back here.
If you need to work on that breaker, you can wheel it out.
I saw it here.
Pull up there, you can test it. You know, way back when I told my maybe get like,
Yeah, those reels.
no, they just stick on the wall someplace.
Yeah.
So if we have to do maintenance on those, if it's like a UPS, does that mean that we lose the control power in the process, or is there a way to bypass the
I think
batteries?
this thing already has.
You think about step down transformer right there.
Pulling it up, I want to make sure you get thrown away. Back and forth.
Yeah. So we'll keep a logbook in here. We're gonna, it's like every month, and then you take the readings on the batteries. If we drop below 10% on the batteries, then we'll have them changed out. About every 3 years. Yep.
What's the purpose of these, Mike? What's the purpose of these?
Chuck, that's for.
The way I've seen it with stuff was on any of the big breakers and stuff, and so when you need to make adjustments or test it or whatever, you take it out of the cell, put that on there,
Like an
and
extension.
still have
It's an extension
control.
cord.
Yeah, it's like an extension cord.
Yeah. So just remember, guys, things like this, these will open and close the main breakers. You just don't want to bang into. So whenever you're in this room, you don't want to bang into things. As you look at it, some things are sticking out. Just be really careful. If there's ever fire, you typically don't want the firemen to come in here. Why? They have tanks on their back, axes, they do this shit, they do this. Last thing you want is them busting up your gear and dropping something. Trust me, they do. Same with like the MDF, the data center.
Yes, that's what you don't want.
You don't want them walking in with all their shit banging around and they take things out. There's certain things you don't want the fire department to do. Because they just say, oops, my bad, and walk out. But yeah, you just be careful around the gear. You don't want to be that guy who opens a main breaker and dumps everything, right? Especially if there's surgeries going on, things are going on. So be careful with electrical works. No, be careful.
You can do something like it.
No, I mean, they do have the
You can
locks.
take these guys off. and
Yeah,
just
just a screw. But they have locks. The locks, but you just want to be careful. You lean on something, bam. Lean into that.
These don't necessarily lock them on though. It'll trip up there, it'll still trip.
It'll trip, but it kind of helps you mend it. But like here, you come in with the ladder, you turn around with the ladder, smack this. Bad things happen. So be really careful in this room. Like I said, you don't want to be that guy.
Anything else? We good? Dave?
That's good.
And also, any point too, and I know Chuck's gonna be here for a little bit longer, and I still gotta get the car locked in for him to get all every work and stuff. You guys have any questions? Don't hesitate. Don't ask me anything.
Thank you, fellas.
Can you guys confirm that you're saying that you think this is in line?
Yeah, I'll confirm on that.
And he says
emergency backup to it. So when we go down the one line, we trace that, the B side, whatever's down from that B side all the way down as emergency backup power.
Do we know at the outlets, is it color coded?
Outlets are all.
If they're red, they're fed off the generator. But like panels, like all the sub panels and all the electrical rooms, let's go into electrical rooms. Okay.
Look at the critical. Yes, yes. See, it's hiding from you. I was gonna have 80 find this the other day.
But what I really was going to show you guys, like I said, in the riser, electrical room riser, basically everything's just stacked. You guys have probably been here and walked around, so all the electrical rooms stacked behind it. All the feeders that go up to all the way up to the roof and everything are back behind this wall. So it's just a wall of conduits in there. But anyway, good example. You come into the panel and stuff like that. You got B, and like I said, we'll probably end up changing all these because it'll probably be B2 since when they changed all the nomenclature for the thing stuff. But originally it was B. This was basement, that was ground. So everything up there was G. Now that's B1, B2. But then you got E, equipment. Right away you know if it's not an N there, it's on the generator. Then you got high voltage, panel, number 1. Okay.
Typically, is all the high voltage lighting and all the low is equipment? Typically.
Well, it's going to be lighting, but on the 277. But there's also you got all your 480 lighting pumps or things like that. Three-phase stuff.
No, just curious on the, there's conduits running up and side. Is there any protective plates? Because, sometimes we do drilling into the walls. Is there any plates that block it when it's a conduit right there?
In the wall itself?
Yeah.
No, you're not going to. There won't be anything
Right.
protected.
Okay. So.
Gotta go through plan grid.
Okay.
I know what?
Plan grid.
Yeah, because that's always my worry.
Oh, I was saying when you drill through, you hit something that's not sheetrock. Stop.
Yeah. No, that's
because what it is. It won't be the electrical stuff you'll drill through. It'll be the copper.
Yeah.
That makes a bigger mess.
That's always my concern.
B, basement. L, life safety.
Life safety.
Right. Okay. And then the third one is going to be
High voltage.
H, high voltage, 48277. And down. This is the basement, life safety, low voltage, so it's 122.8. Yeah.
What's a P?
P is panel. Panel.
Panel.
And you can see how those will have DP. That's a distribution panel.
So the E is equipment, it's not emergency?
No. It's equipment. Just know that L, the second one, L, E, or C, is going to be on the generator. L, E, or C. If it's got an N after that one, then it's just normal. There's not going to be a generator.
Remember the
So just remember N, because N is normal.
N is normal.
No generator.
L, equipment, L, E,
Right. Everything else, right? Everything else except N.
C, right, like right behind you, DC. C is going to be critical. Yep.
So wouldn't it be just easier just to remember N? Just remember N, right? Just then everything else is emergency, and N is not.
What's more important, critical or life safety?
Critical. No.
I would say critical, because if everybody dies in a fire, who's going to protect the patient? Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like an airplane. Put your mask on first, and then put the person next to you's on. Right? If you don't survive, you can't protect others, right?
I don't know, Dave, but how's that? How do we have how the HSs go?
Like the code blues. Code blue. What's the only thing that trumps a code blue? Well, not
Code red.
Yeah, code red.
Right. Because if the house burns down, patient dies anyway, right?
I just put you a plumber. I'll call Nick. Give me a plumber out here. I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, so you would just go all the way down to the bottom of that equipment load, down to the bottom of the tree, so to speak.
It should be on the roof. It should be on the roof.
My eyes are too bad to do that, Dave. Man, I wish I had young
Mine are
eyes.
getting bad too.
I wish I had young eyes. I wouldn't give 23 right eyes. Because as you guys know, all of you guys, I'm going to give you guys a branch, and you're going to walk the building, and you're going to put a little sticker with your initials Every device going down, and that's how many he has to burn in the tree. I'm gonna give you just a branch, get it through, you'll find it. Maybe Pete touch it. This is fed from wherever it is. And we'll get everybody to do a branch. Easiest way to
What our
learn.
kids are doing now? Poking. It's like poking.
Yeah, you know what your prize is? A paycheck. You get paid a lot of money. It's
Pikachu
even
or whatever
better.
it was.
It's even better than lunch.
So now what Michelle was doing, they had some game or something going?
Yeah, it's right
Yeah,
there on the tours.
scavenger hunt.
I don't have it's something small. It wasn't, I don't think it was coming up from RLP. I want to say it was RELP, it was the distribution panel that went down.
Guys, thank you very much, fellas.
No problem. Like I said, if anything else